perfect. So I'm guessing this is your mic, right?
Yes, this is my mic.
That's so fancy.
We are recording.
Okay, awesome.
So, Abby, welcome.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, so we only formally met like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, to the day, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so Rachel, who's your apartment mate, my cross-country and track teammate, told me you wanted to come on the show.
Yeah.
Why did you want to come on the show so much?
Honestly, I think it would be really fun to be on a podcast. I don't know. I just love meeting people. I honestly really love talking. I love sports. And so I thought it would be really fun. So,
have you listened to any of the other shows before?
I listened to some sports radio. I grew up listening to sports radio a lot. Not any like Gordon radio, but professional ones. And then over the summer, I listened to a lot of podcasts because my job was super boring. So I just had them going all the time. So.
All right. Well, this is episode 27 of this show.
I have 26 to catch up
on.
on.
Definitely recommend checking out some of the earlier episodes we've done. We've had a lot of people from the track team on. So
sounds good.
But you're the first basketball player.
I'm excited. I'm honored.
I've been trying to email Coach Murphy.
Okay.
You know, he played in the NBA. I've been trying to get him on the show. Timing hasn't worked out yet, but
Gotcha.
I'm still working on that. But yeah, so how I usually start my guests is just, we'll get into basketball and sports in a little bit, but first tell me what brought you to Gordon. Tell me about your journey here.
Yeah, so my brother actually, he's 4 years older than me, but he took a gap year, so we overlapped in school by 1 year, and he played basketball here. So that's how I initially kind of started looking at Gordon, was through my brother. And then I don't know, I didn't go to a Christian high school, middle school, anything, but I think, so I didn't feel the need to go to a Christian school, but it really appealed to me just because I think the community at a Christian school is awesome, and I think it'd be really beneficial for me growing in my faith, so that definitely drew me here. And then I wanted to be a teacher starting probably early high school, and so I know the education department here is phenomenal, and it's continued to prove that to me as I've gone through Gordon. So that was a really big draw. And then another reason is just it's 2 hours from home, which I thought was perfect. You know, my parents could come up to games, but I wasn't right around the corner, which is where some of the other schools were that I was looking at. So it was just kind of a mixture of things. And then I think God really closed the doors for some other schools that I was looking at. So that's how I ended up here. So
what other schools were they?
So my other top school was Connecticut College, which I was really, really sold on. And then I went on my overnight, my official visit, and I absolutely hated it. Like, I almost called my mom to pick me up in the middle of the night because I hated it so much, which was really disappointing because I was, like, sold on going there. So I was kind of like, okay, yeah, I'm not sure. And then I looked at the College of New Jersey as well, and I wanted to overnight there. But that one was really expensive, so God kind of closed the door with finances. And then I was still I could still look into College, and then their coach called me. It was basically like, a girl at your position committed, so you don't really have a guaranteed spot on the team anymore. And so, not that I was only left with Gordon. Yeah, this is basketball. And so Gordon was like not the last option because I had looked here, I had to go on an overnight, but it just kind of worked out that way. So, yeah.
What was it about the overnight experience that was so bad? I
don't even know. I just feel like I didn't fit in with the team at all, I guess. Whereas here I definitely felt like I fit in a lot better. It was just, I don't know, some like gut feelings. Like I loved their coach, but then the team I just didn't really feel like I was suited well with.
It's like the spirit coming over you and telling you that this...
Honestly, I literally almost called my mom in the middle of the night and said, can you please pick me up? And then like the next morning I was talking to their coach as I was leaving, and then I left. As soon as I left the gym with my mom, I just started bawling my eyes out, and I was like, I hated that. So definitely God being like, okay, this is not for you. So
did you want a Christian school or a smaller school? Were you open to pretty much anything?
I think I always tell people, like, I think my personality is really big school. Like, I think I would have loved going to a big school, but I am not D1 quality whatsoever. So if I wanted to play basketball, it would have been at a D3 school, which I was very happy to do. I really wanted to play basketball. And then in terms of Christian school, definitely wasn't like something that I had to do, but I do think it's been really beneficial for me growing in my faith. And so it wasn't like a must-have, but it was nice to have that in one of the schools that I was looking at.
So you mentioned the education department here.
Mm-hmm.
Why that major? And tell me what you want to do with that specifically and why you chose it.
Yeah, so I know that a lot of times people are like, oh, I love kids, but I just felt a calling towards that since probably early high school. I just think like the ability that I have with kids, and I just think I'm really gifted in working with kids. I definitely think that that's a God thing, and so I've been pretty set on that since, like I said, early high school. And then last year I kind of had an existential crisis where I was like, I don't know if I want to be a teacher anymore. And I was just like, I don't really know if God's leading me in this direction or to be a collegiate coach, because that's something that I've always really wanted to do. And so I was debating switching my major to rec or just out of the ed department. But ultimately I was pretty far in, and I still really enjoy the classes that I'm taking, and I do think that I'm gifted in that area. So I decided to stick with it, and as of now, I'm still not exactly sure where I'll end up next year. I'm hoping to get a graduate assistant position so that I can get my master's and then also get my foot in the door of the coaching world. But I know whether I become a teacher or not, God used the ed department to bring me to Gordon, which is definitely where I'm supposed to be right now. So I know that his plan for me is solid, and like he knows exactly what he's doing. So I'm not exactly sure where we'll end up next year, but I'm not too stressed about it.
Tell me a little bit more about the education department, because I hear from a lot of people that there's a lot of work that goes into it if you're going to be an ed major.
Oh, yeah. It's funny because people, like, for example, I had to do a handwriting book last year, and so my teammates were like, are you kidding me? Like, that's the work you have to do? So the work is really different than most majors, but teaching is really hard, and there's so many different aspects to it. And, like, for example, this semester has just been a lot for me. I'm in the classroom with a class 3 days a week in the mornings, and then I'm also a full-time student, so I'm taking 5 classes, and so I'm having to make lesson plans for teaching, and just like I'm torn between the professional world right now and the being a college student, and so that's a really hard balance. And we also have like 5 different big tests that we have to pass in order to get our license, which are really expensive and really hard. So that's another area that's difficult, and then there's like just a ton of work that has to go into it to understand not only the material that you have to cover, but how to teach it. And then also, how do you manage a class? And how do you encourage students? And how do you teach to different levels? And what do you do with students who don't have any resources? And so there's just so many different factors that go into teaching that I think are often overlooked by people. So it's a lot to try to learn and then implement.
Do you have a minor as well? Or
yeah, I have a history minor.
Okay. That's what I thought. I was looking at a 360 briefly before we came on the show. But why history?
I don't know. I'm kind of a history geek. So honestly, originally, when I first came into Gordon, if you were an ed major, you were required to have a second major. And like secondary ed, you usually teach English, chemistry, whatever. But for elementary, I was like, okay, I don't really know why we have to do this. We teach all the subjects, but I really like history. I think it's so interesting. So that's what I chose to go with. And then I also had a ton of credits from high school, so I didn't really have to take that many classes to complete it. So
that's always nice.
Yeah. I think I only needed 3 here to finish my minor in it, so it worked out well. Good. Yeah.
What era of history is your favorite?
So I really like U.S. history and more modern history, I would say. I just think I don't know, it's just so interesting to me, like, the way that the world used to work, and it's like, it sounds so dumb, but like, Connecticut, like, is so historical. It's like, so many different things happen on the exact land, like, where I grew up, hundreds of years ago, and it's like, I can't even fathom that. I don't know, it's just really interesting to me.
I live in an old historic town, Newcastle in Delaware.
Okay.
And there's a restaurant, I forget the exact story, but I think like George Washington ate there after he attended a wedding in the area or something. So there's a lot of history where I'm from too.
Yeah, it's so cool.
I totally get that. That's actually my biggest regret, I think, in high school, is that I didn't pay more attention to my U.S. history class in 10th grade. Because, I was just a cynical sophomore at the time. I had the attitude like, I need to get through high school so I get my piece of paper. But, especially everything that's going on in the world right now, I think more than ever it's important for people. There's a saying, people who don't study history are bound to repeat it. I think it's a very important part of our curriculum that everybody should take seriously. Oh, yeah, I agree. I think a lot of it, people are just so concerned with they have to memorize facts and dates and stuff, which I guess is definitely part of it, but just like understanding, like you said, how history impacts culture today is really fascinating and really important. So let's get into a little bit of sports talk here.
Sounds great.
I know you're a basketball player.
Yes.
How big of a role did that, obviously you mentioned the ed department here being very strong, but how much of a role did basketball play in you settling on Gordon?
I would not have looked at Gordon if it weren't for basketball. So that's a very big role. And it's actually interesting now. I remember when I was looking at schools, my dad said, the school that you end up should be a place where if basketball is taken away, you would still be happy there. And I was kind of like, okay, whatever. And I think like freshman and sophomore year, if basketball was taken away from me, I don't know how happy I would have been here. Basketball is just such a big role in my life. But after having so many injuries and really being sidelined the majority of the past 3 years, and then this year, who even knows what's going to happen with our season, the fact that I still wanted to come back knowing that basketball was up in the air because like that's how much I love this place and I love my friends. It's just interesting to see how much I've transformed from freshman year. But yeah, definitely would not have looked here originally if it weren't for basketball.
So how did you get started in the sport? When did you start playing?
My first organized team was 4th grade, so...
Okay.
Yeah, my mom was our coach, and we had the little hoops, and I was on the blue team, so...
Do you have any memories from your career playing in middle school and high school?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my childhood best friend I met in 5th grade on, like, the first day of tryouts, and we've been best friends ever since then. And I just had such a good group of girls that I carried with me all the way through high school. And my 5th grade year, we were atrocious. We won 3 games, and in one game we scored 2 points. We lost 26-2, so we were horrible. And then it was just cool because even though we were terrible, we just loved playing so much. Like, we just played together all winter, all spring, all summer. And then, like, when we came back in 6th grade, we were so good and just, like, I mean, good for middle school and just, like, beat everyone. And my parents were like, it was so fun to see, like, the turnaround. And so just being able to have fun with my friends, you know, and just, like, find a sport that I really, really love. It was cool. And just, like, I don't know, the relationships that I've made through basketball have been amazing, and, like, I'm so thankful for them. So I feel like those are the biggest memories that I take away. And, like, I have a really intense basketball mind. Like, I think like an analyst, and I remember the majority of games that I played in, like, from 5th grade. Like, it's over. It's a lot, but I have so many, like, basketball memories of certain games that we played in. But definitely the biggest things I've taken away is the relationships that I've made through the sport, so.
What position do you play?
So I played the 2 through the 4. So I came in recruited as a 3, but I've mostly played the 4, but I can stretch to the 2. So I'm pretty versatile. Wherever he needs me, I'll go.
Yeah. So tell me about your career at Gordon. I know you're a senior, so you've been here for a few years now. So give me some of your career highlights from here.
Career highlights. Oh gosh. So if you asked me name a million ways that your basketball career would have gone at Gordon, I would have never predicted this. So my freshman year, I came in, I was really excited. Like, I had a ton of personal goals, like to score 1,000 points, to be all conference, to help, like, our team win a championship. And then I think God really humbled me. I got a stress fracture the second half of my freshman year, so I only played in 9 games. And then sophomore year, I had a different stress fracture the first half of the season, so I played in the second half of the season. And then junior year, I was, like, in the best shape of my life, like, worked so hard to come back from all the injuries, and then 4 practices into the year, I tore my ACL. And so I've only played in, I think I did the math, 21 or 24 games in my career, which is kind of crazy. I think my biggest highlight, I would say, is my sophomore year. We beat Endicott at Endicott on their senior night, and it was the first time that we beat them in 12 years, I think. And so that was just, like, I literally cried after the game because our year had been, like, so hard. We played with 7 people pretty much all year because of injuries. And so just, like, having that opportunity to beat them on their senior night for the first time in so long was so fun. And, like, I don't know, it was just so awesome. So I'd say that was probably my biggest memory from Gordon. And then last year, our team was just so much better than we've been in, like, 10, 15 years. And so even though I was sidelined, which was really hard, getting to watch, like, my teammates break so many records was super, super cool. So.
What did the ACL rehab look like for you? Yeah,
so it's interesting. I tore my other ACL senior year of high school, and the rehabs were actually pretty different because they used different grafts. So they used the hamstring graft on my first surgery and then patella tendon on my second surgery. So at the beginning, it's just, like, a lot of mobility, trying to get my range of motion back, and then trying to get your quad firing because your quad just completely falls asleep while you're in the big brace. and then like literally learning how to walk again, which took a little bit. And then it was really hard because I was doing really well in my rehab and jumping, and I had just started running, and then we got sent home because of COVID. And so right as I was about to start running and lifting, I got sent home. So I was able to run but not lift, which really, I think, hurt my progress because I was running, but my quad strength wasn't really growing that well. So that made things kind of difficult. But then over the summer, I went back to PT, and then I also saw like a personal trainer, and that helped me get a lot of my strength back. So it's just about working on your form to make sure your jumping tactics are right, because that's a lot of reasons why females tear their ACLs, because of their jumping and then their landing, they don't do it right, and so it puts a lot of stress on your ACL. So making sure that my form is good and then building back my strength. So
you brought up COVID and the pandemic shutting everything down. Did you all get to finish the season before everything?
Yep. So D3 is there's like conference tournament is a lot earlier than D1.
It's a couple weeks ahead of like, March Madness and everything, right?
So we had finished our tournament like a week and a half prior, 2 weeks prior. So.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I know there were a lot of college athletes who got screwed out of a tournament, especially seniors.
Yeah.
So
it's so hard.
Frustrating, but yeah, I knew you all were a couple weeks ahead on your timeline, so
yeah.
I was pretty sure you got in the finish. But
yep,
that's good.
Our conference tournament had finished, like I want to say 2 weeks before we went on spring break. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, what does it look like this year? Because I think with me and cross country and track, that's a sport where I guess everybody's on the line at the start, but you can kind of have a race and not have everybody all together.
Yeah.
Basketball court, everybody's in each other's faces,
yep.
and you got 10 people on the court
and it's inside
all the time, and everybody's in a huddle and everything.
Yeah.
So I know NCAA kind of shut down D3 for the fall. Did that affect the winter sports at all?
Yeah, so they're actually deciding in a couple of weeks what they're going to do with our season. So we'll wait to see what that looks like in terms of games and whatnot. But right now for practices, we can't do any contact, so we're not really doing any defense at all. And then we have to wear masks the whole time. So we do some full court drills, but it's just really hard because you can't really breathe that well in the masks. And so also it's like just harder because we're inside, there's not that fresh air and wind everywhere. So we're doing a ton of shooting, and we're like going over our offense a lot, and we're doing a lot of skill development, like individual skills, which I think is really beneficial. And I think for the underclassmen especially, it'll help them in the long run, having this time to work on their fundamentals. But it's just nothing like I envisioned it would be senior year. But our coach has done a really good job of changing practice up, doing fun drills, doing competitive drills, so that even though we're not playing, it's still enjoyable. So
if they decide that it's safe and you would be allowed to compete, is that something that, given the current situation, you'd be comfortable doing?
I mean, selfishly, yes, absolutely. I think that if they had the ability to test us a couple of times a week, I think at least the schools in Massachusetts would be doable. I mean, Endicott's right down the road, and so being able to test numerous times a week, and just like, I know for me, if you say, okay, now you have such a higher responsibility, like we're already being careful because we know being able to practice could be taken away from us, but having that higher level of responsibility, like now you're playing games, so you have to be that much more careful, I think is something that people would take even more seriously. So I don't know if that sounds selfish, but yeah, I definitely want to.
Well, I've been frustrated because I see I think football is the worst possible sport, when it comes to like social distancing, because there are some sports like golf, basically has social distancing built in, so college teams in that sport, I don't see it as much of an issue, whereas football, you're literally on the line breathing in each other's faces, so it's a lot more difficult. But if the NCAA is going to let D1 college football happen, because it's such a moneymaker for those schools and everything. Yeah, but D3 schools, we highly suggest you shut down and don't have any intercollegiate competition.
Yeah.
That just seems kind of frustrating to me.
It's really frustrating, especially because we're in like much closer proximity. You know, we don't go anywhere outside of New England for any of our games. They're all in Maine, Rhode Island, Mass. Yeah, those three states.
Yeah, and I totally get wanting to be safe and take precautions, but it is kind of frustrating when you turn on the TV and you see college football still going strong.
And I know in high school, my mom coaches volleyball, which obviously volleyball is a lot different from basketball. You know, it's not really contact, on different sides of the court. But she coaches a high school team in Connecticut, and they've had a season. So,
well, my sister's a senior in high school, and they're having a season right now. It looked like they weren't going to, but the sanctioning body for my high school did a U-turn and ended up letting it happen. And they have to wear masks during the game.
What's basketball?
Volleyball.
Yeah.
So,
Same with my mom's team, which. Yeah. You know, I have an idea. We should just do half court because you can't really run full court in masks. Just do half court games and then you can wear masks.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah. So I know because of what's happened in fall sports, we've had a few inter-squad meets. If the NCAA puts their foot down and says the same thing for winter sports, what would the rest of the season look like for you all?
That is a phenomenal question. I know first and foremost it's going to be a conference decision. Like, okay, are we going to have conference games going towards a conference tournament for the NCAA tournament? And if they say no to that, I know then it's like I think it's a school by school basis. Like, okay, would your school allow non-conference games? And if that's the case, if Gordon would be okay with that, our coach would try to find anyone nearby who is in the same boat and they would want to play. And then, like I said, ramp up testing, do whatever necessary to make that happen. And then if not, I have no idea. I was talking to him about it today, and I was like, so what am I supposed to do then? Because I'm a senior, so it's not like I'm playing for next year or anything. But if we could eventually, honestly, do inter-squad scrimmages, I would be happy with that at this point. So.
Yeah, so you mentioned this your senior year. Obviously, this game has been a part of your life for a long time now. Do you see yourself I know you mentioned when you're talking about education, maybe wanting this to be part of your life going forward. Have you always wanted to pursue a coaching career?
Oh, yeah.
In any way?
As soon as I started playing, everyone told me I was going to be a coach. And okay, when I was in 4th grade, the girls on the other team who I later became friends with apparently would call me bossy blue girl. And that's just like my personality. Like, I'm just such I just demand things, which is something, sometimes I need to work on. But like, coaching is just ingrained in me. And I think part of the reason is both my parents are coaches. My dad is such an analytic in the way that he sees the game. And so I definitely got that from him. But I just can't, no matter what I do, I'm definitely going to be coaching along with it. And I think coaching at a collegiate level would be absolutely amazing. And if that doesn't happen immediately, I'm 100% getting plugged into the nearest, middle school, high school to coach because I just love it.
So you're a captain, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you feel like that's helped prepare you for a coaching career, having that opportunity to be a leader?
Yeah, I definitely think so. It's interesting. I've been one since my sophomore year, and so seeing how my role has kind of developed and just growing from different leaders on our team and learning from Coach Carter has been something that I definitely think has prepared me for when I coach afterwards. I also took a sports leadership class to get my certification in that over the summer through Baylor, which was super awesome, and I learned a ton from that. And I just think it's interesting, like last year we had 2 seniors who I was captains with, and then to have like a ton more responsibility this year after they graduated was something that I've had to learn a lot from and grow a lot from. Something that I'm really bad at doing is delegating. I tend to be like, okay, me leading is me doing everything for everyone, which is not true at all. And also nobody can carry the weight of everyone. And so having to try to learn this year what's the best way to delegate and how can I grow in that way is something that I've been really working on. So
I know the Rec Sports Wellness Program was one of the most affected by the budget cuts. But did you have an opportunity to take any classes with that department? I
didn't. I really wanted to, but it just never worked out with my schedule, which I'm pretty disappointed by, but I would have loved to, but unfortunately not.
So you, I forget who the other person was.
Lexon.
Lexon?
Yeah, Lexon.
So you helped put on this wonderful event 2 weeks ago to the day.
When we formally met.
Yes. So, yeah, was Scott Strong the name of it?
Yeah, so our like theme for the semester is Scots Strong. So then we kind of ran with that and call like Scots Strong, Stronger Together. So it's kind of a long name, but
yeah. Well, I know it was a tremendously long process trying to get that all organized and putting it together, and then it got delayed a week because of the weather. So tell me how that idea came together and how you ended up organizing it and making it come to fruition.
So I'm the vice president of SAC, so we had calls, throughout the summer trying to start planning for the fall. And in one of them, Mr. Timon talked about Luxon, who's on the men's soccer team, coming to him in light of all the racial tensions that were going on, saying, I think Gordon Athletics can do more. I think my team can do more. I want to put something on. I want to do something within athletics. And I said, absolutely, I will take that and run with it. And so I was like acquaintances with him last year. So I reached out to him and said, I would love to partner with you on this. And so we met when we came back from school after like brainstorming a little bit. And eventually it kind of just molded into talking about more of a unity event, which was different than we had originally planned, but it's so much better than I had originally intended. I think athletes, there's so much that we go through, whether it is gender related, whether it's race related or mental health, that people don't really talk about because athletes are supposed to be super strong. We're supposed to just perform well on the court, and anything off the court has nothing to do with us. We're supposed to shut up and dribble, as people tell LeBron. And so I think that athletics just has an amazing opportunity to break barriers. Like you've seen it so many times with gender, with race, with Kevin Love opening up, talking about his mental health. That's not something that's done all the time. And so I think like being able to come together as a department and talk about those things is something that's really powerful. And so that's kind of where our brainstorming led us to. And so because Luxon, he was talking about how in his classes, it can be really difficult sometimes how people, if they're always talking about race, like hammering home all the issues, like as a black man, it can be really draining to have those conversations all the time. And so, yes, it's something we want to address, but to maybe look at it from a different angle and be like, even though there's so many different things that divide us, we're united in something that's so much more powerful, which is the gospel. And so having an opportunity to celebrate that was something we wanted to do. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like you follow, I don't know if it's just basketball or sports, generally speaking, professionally. So are you a New England sports fan?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm from,
like Celtics, Patriots?
Yes. I'm from Connecticut, and Connecticut is the fakest state ever because half people like New York, half people like Boston and New England, but New England all the way.
Yeah, so have you been keeping up with, I guess the NFL is the only season that's in season right now. But
so I mostly follow the Celtics. I like the NBA and the WNBA a lot. When I'm home, I watch the NFL, but usually I'm just like too busy during the week to watch any Pats games. But I do love the Patriots. I usually am a Red Sox fan. I did not pay attention to any of the MLB post-COVID or like when they came back. And then the Bruins, I'll like cheer them on, but I'm not that into hockey, so.
Yeah, I've had a harder time keeping up with baseball just because they keep changing the game and moving away from tradition and what makes baseball special. But I know the Dodgers just won the World Series last night, and Mookie Betts was a big part of that.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, well, and then Tom Brady going to Tampa.
I know.
It's yeah.
It's a little bit different. It's hard.
There's been a lot of success around here. But,
yes. I was going to say, it's hard as a Boston/New England sports fan because we're so good and everyone hates on our greatness. So we're always defending ourselves, because everyone just hates on greatness. So.
Yeah. I remember watching the, I guess it was game 1, the Stanley Cup final in 2019. So the Red Sox had just won the World Series and the Patriots had just won the Super Bowl. And Dennis Leary, who, of course, is a big Boston sports fan, was narrating the intro. And he's talking about, it's been 4 whole months since Boston got to celebrate. 4 months!
I know. Who can survive that long? That's funny. I've been really upset. There's been 3 parades since I've been at Gordon, and I have not been able to go to a single one, and I'm, like, really upset about it. But, oh well. There'll be another one soon enough.
Yeah, so do you have a favorite player on the Celtics right now?
Oh, gosh, I go back and forth. I miss Al Horford. I missed him this year. I love him.
Well, I'm a Philadelphia fan because I'm from
Oh,
Delaware,
really? Okay,
so.
okay. I'm sure you loved having him on your team.
Yeah, well, it could have gone a little bit better, I
Yeah.
think. The chemistry just
Was not there.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not even mad at Kawhi Leonard hitting that crazy shot 2 years ago because I know they would have blown it in overtime anyway.
Just take it.
Yeah. But I'm mad that they couldn't get Jimmy Butler back. Because I think that really hurt them. And I've never seen a team so good at home and then so bad and mediocre at best.
Yeah.
Like, they really were. Like, I think 29-2 at home the Sixers were before the season was suspended. But yeah, I mean, everybody was talking about when Embiid and Simmons were starting to come to their own and the Celtics were acquiring the roster that they've got right now and all the talent they have, that the rivalry was back on. And then every time, like, you guys have just crushed us in the playoffs every time that we've met.
No,
it's been like, and I think Embiid's even admitted it. Like, it's not a rivalry. Like, it doesn't matter how good they look when they get in the playoffs. If they run into Boston, there's nothing they can do.
That's definitely an interesting point. Like, some teams are just really good in the regular season. Then when it comes to the postseason, you just know they're not going far. My mom's the chaplain for the Connecticut Sun, which is a WNBA team. Yeah. And for the past couple of years, they've been so good in the regular season and have been so close, like making it to the finals, where they made it to the finals last year. But then they just, like, can't win it, and it's so frustrating because they have such a good, solid core who's played together for so many years now, and they just can't win the playoffs. It's really frustrating.
Yeah. I know. I've had a hard time getting into the WNBA just because I follow so many sports and I'm so busy, like, trying to add things on. It gets tough, but every game that I do catch, I always come away thinking, you know what, there were some good plays in that game. Maybe I should try to tune into this a little more often. But Elena Deladon went to Delaware, so she's really big. When I was growing up and in high school there, and when she was, again, it's been a little while since I've been able to follow this closely, but when she was in Chicago, the Sky would always come back to the Bob Carpenter Center at UD. Yeah. They'd play a preseason game there.
Oh, so that's awesome. Wow.
See her a couple of times.
Yeah.
But, who won the finals this year? I can't remember.
The Storm did.
The Storm, that's right.
Crushed
Sue Bird.
Sue Bird, Brianna Stewart, Jewel Lloyd, Morgan Tuck, I think. So good.
Yeah, Sue Bird's amazing.
She is. She's been in the league for so many years.
Still be doing what she's doing at her age is
amazing.
Incredible. Yeah. Did you watch the NBA finals at all?
I barely watched the NBA finals. As soon as the Celtics were out, I was like, well, I know exactly who's going to win this, and I don't really care to see the Lakers take this, so.
Yeah. Him joining because I know the Celtics and Lakers have a rivalry too. Him joining the Lakers aside, are you a LeBron James fan at all, or?
So I'm not. I don't have a vendetta against him. I don't not like him. I just am indifferent to him, I guess. I feel like I just want somebody else to win. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm kind of the same way. There was growing up, I really didn't like him, and I really didn't like Brady either. But looking back, I think it was really just because they were winning all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think he's a great person. You know what I mean? I don't understand.
Yeah, well, and that's helped shape my opinion of him too. It was like when he had the decision, when he left Cleveland the first time, I really was not a fan. But then coming back to Cleveland with the essay he wrote in Sports Illustrated and winning a title for them and everything he's done for the people of Ohio, I totally respect what he does off the court just as much as I do on it.
Exactly. I don't understand people hating on, athletes who are good people. I don't know. People really like to get into celebrities' personal lives, which it's not me. You can dislike somebody as a player, but just leave it at that. Yeah,
but to make the finals 9 out of 10 years, he's pretty insane.
He is very good.
Yeah.
And does not seem like he's slowing down.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hopeful that he's, he hasn't had too many injuries in his career. I guess last year, his first year with the Lakers, a little bit. It was like the first time he had to miss a real long period of time. Yeah. But I see his son coming up, and obviously he's still very young. We don't know how great he's going to be. But I assume he's going to be good enough to at least be looked at by some NBA teams.
So do you think there's a chance that LeBron can hold on long enough?
With how well he manages his body, and how seriously he takes his fitness, I think there's a chance.
And I mean, you even think about an NBA team and how much money they would make, even if LeBron isn't even good his last year, just the money that they would make off of people seeing him play with his son would be enough for them to keep him on in the roster for a
even if it's not with the Lakers, even if,
anywhere.
If he turns out to be this college superstar and just whoever the number one pick is or a top pick from the lottery gets him, and there's a time in the year when they'll play each other.
Yep. My gosh, the ticket prices for that game so high.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've got a little bit of time left.
Sweet.
And again, we haven't known each other formally for that long. So just tell me a little bit more about yourself. What kind of entertainment do you like? Music, movies, and anything like that? So
I am a very big extrovert. I don't know if you could pick up on that from our conversation. But I just love doing anything with people. I try to think about my hobbies sometimes, and there's not really a ton of specific things where it's pick what you want to do today, and I'd be like, I don't have a go-to, but as long as it's with people, I'm pretty much down to do anything. My roommates and I went hiking in New Hampshire a couple weeks ago. I've been having a bucket list of the North Shore that I've been checking off, and so I just love being around people in any capacity. I am a super big Office fan, which is the most basic answer ever, I know, but love
I know
Office.
Rachel's a big Office fan too.
She is, yeah. We pretty much have it on all the time in our apartment. It's always on in the background. It's good because you can study with the Office on because it's not a new show, so you don't have to pay attention to it that well, you know what I mean? So it can be in the background. But I love comedies and rom-coms. It's my favorite genre for sure. So I'm always looking for new shows to watch that are comedy related. I feel like I've watched almost all of them. But yeah. Yeah,
The Office is on my list.
You've yet to watch it.
I watched on NBC the night it was new. I watched Steve Carell's last episode.
What?
And I don't.
Oh my!
Because I know it was but it's okay though, because the only part of the episode I remember is catch you on the flippity flip. I don't know why that stuck in my head.
Because it's hilarious.
I was like, this is a big deal. I've got nothing better to do, so I guess I'll watch it. But
you have to get through the first season. The first season's
I've heard the first season.
But I feel like that's how it is with a lot of shows because they're experimenting, trying to figure out.
Yeah. Well, actually, one of my favorite shows was Family Matters. With Steve Urkel.
Okay.
I don't know if you
I've never
know that
seen
one.
it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I highly recommend it.
Okay.
But, the thing with Family Matters was, Steve Urkel ended up being one of the most iconic TV characters ever.
Okay,
and audiences loved him. And he was never a part of the show. When it was first starting out. It was actually technically a spin-off of this older show called Perfect Strangers.
Okay.
And Harriet Winslow was the elevator operator who kind of had a recurring role on that show. And then they gave her character her own family with her own show in Family Matters. And the 12th episode, they bring in this Steve Urkel kid who's this annoying, clumsy nerd who is trying to get a date to a middle school dance with Harriet's daughter, Laura.
Okay.
And it does not go very well. Steve has like been obsessed with her since kindergarten or first grade, and she's just totally freaked out by him. And Jaleel White, who was the actor who played Steve Urkel, will tell the story to this day. Apparently there was a frat in the audience as they were taping that night.
Really?
And every time, like between takes, that they just would not stop chanting the Urkel name. And the people at ABC decided maybe we should continue to do something with this character because it was supposed to be a one-off.
Yeah.
So he ends up becoming a part of the main cast, and
Oh
eventually,
my gosh.
as the
that's
show goes on,
hilarious.
it continues to be more and more Urkel-centric.
Centered.
So yeah, but just drawing it back to what you were saying about The Office, like it is interesting to go back and watch, especially the first half of the first season, because it's almost a totally different show.
Oh
from
yeah,
what it
completely.
turned out being. Yeah. What other shows do you like?
Right now, okay, so over quarantine, my brother, sister, and I were watching Prison Break. We're still on season 2 because we haven't watched since the beginning of summer because I wasn't really home for summer. But that show is really good so far. I am a big New Girl fan. New Girl's really good. I'm watching I'm Sorry right now with one of my apartment mates, and I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but
I don't
it's
think I have.
hilarious. I hadn't heard of it either, and then my friend suggested it. It's like it's like pretty much these really modern parents, you know, progressive parents trying to navigate parenting world, and the dad's a lawyer, the mom is a comedian, comic writer, not comic. Yeah, a comedian writer? Is that a thing?
Comic writer?
Comic writer?
I guess that sounds right.
Yeah, so it's just really funny. And then my team always watches The Bachelorette together, which is currently on, but the season is horrible, so.
I've never been able to get into that show.
You've tried, though?
Not really.
You gotta. That's what
I
everyone
almost
says.
tried, because I'm a big racing fan.
Okay. With Ari?
Yeah.
Well, he was bad, so.
Yeah, that's the one season I was like, maybe I should watch a little bit of it. But,
that's funny.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't, like, his dad won the Indy 500 twice.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's Ari Lyndike Jr. And he won, like, I think he won one Indy Lights race, which is like the level, it's like the AAA or G League.
Okay, so he's really not a race.
Yeah, he never really made
So they just hyped him up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he had a famous father who was great and a champion and all that. But his career, like, yeah, he was a race car driver, but
It was a hobby.
yeah. And I guess
that's
he went on to
interesting.
try the reality star
Hey,
thing.
He's married now.
Yeah.
And they have a kid, so I guess it worked out.
Yeah. Well, do a lot of couple, like, I'm just asking honestly
Yeah.
because I never watched the show. Like, have there been a lot of successful relationships that come out of it?
There are some, but usually they break up. I mean, it's a lot of lust, so, you know, how successful is it really going to be?
I used to watch The Biggest Loser.
Oh,
back in
yeah.
the day, and there were some people would say that you actually had a better chance of getting into a romantic relationship on The Biggest Loser than on The Bachelor, because
so
there really
funny.
were a few marriages that came out
Really?
of The Biggest Loser.
That's interesting.
But yeah, I don't know. And of course, there have been plenty. Like, Biggest Loser has been on for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And how many? Is there a?
Oh gosh, so many.
Yeah, because I know that there's The
20-something.
Bachelor, and then there's The Bachelorette, and
And
it's
then there's
been
Bachelor
on,
in Paradise. There's a lot. Yeah. Our team we always go to like a room together. Like last year we go to somebody's apartment, just all watch it as a team, and it's just so funny listening to everyone's commentary about it. So it's a good team bonding time.
Yeah. You watch any other reality shows at all, or is Bachelor the main one?
I used to watch MasterChef Junior. I think that's technically a reality TV show.
Yeah, sure.
That one
Yeah.
is really good. And my family used to watch America's Got Talent too, but we haven't watched that in a little bit because it's pretty scripted. Well, I guess The Bachelor is too, but it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, they all are.
Yeah, that's
to
true.
an extent. But,
My brother is really big into Survivor, like really
Okay.
big. I watched
Yeah.
some seasons of that, but not really recently.
yeah. Well, just with I've had a hard time keeping up with it since I've been in college.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there was a little while where I was really into it.
It's a really cool show.
Yeah, I love the game, and I still feel like I don't totally understand it.
Yeah,
Like,
would you go? Would you ever try to go on Survivor?
Man, I feel like I'd be better on The Amazing Race.
That show would be dope to go
yeah.
on to.
Well, I'm a big game show fan.
Okay.
Actually, so I've loved ABC's been pumping out these revivals like Millionaire's Back Now. That was one of my favorites. Press Your Luck, Match Game,
So
Card
I love
Sharks,
them.
like all these.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wouldn't mind. Yeah, I thought about when I was in high school maybe taking the Jeopardy teen test.
Oh.
But
That
never
is
ended
so
up
cool.
looking at that. But yeah, love Jeopardy, love Wheel of Fortune. But in terms of reality competitions, like any reality shows in general, like I'm a big Pawn Stars fan.
Okay.
Like
They're Yeah, I've heard of it.
those
I've never
history
watched
shows
it, but...
like American Pickers,
Yeah.
Counting Cars, and everything. But yeah, I don't know that I'd last very long on Survivor. Just because there's the physical aspect of it, like just trying to outwit, outplay, and outlast.
Yeah.
But also, trying to form alliances and how you deal with people. Like, it's just, I don't think I'd make it very far.
Well, I feel like it's definitely a very challenging game. My brother over quarantine, he did like a Facebook. It's like an online Survivor. And he didn't win the first time, but he made it far enough that he went back to the celebrity one. He got voted back in for the celebrity one. And then it was like really intense. And then I guess he got kind of screwed and lost in the second one as well. But I thought it was really cool.
So I own it. I've never played it.
Okay.
This is me with a lot of video games because I'm a collector.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a Survivor Wii game and DS game that
really?
they came out with.
Of course.
I guess when those consoles were kind
still
of
being used.
the big things, but I've always been meaning to try that. I don't know how accurate it is compared to the actual show. But.
I mean, I know this is not, I guess this is reality TV. I had a Wii Wipeout game.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, Wipeout was cool. I guess it was technically you could call it a game show.
That's more of a game. That's not reality TV.
They were playing for money.
Yeah, that's true.
One episode at a time, but yeah. Do you watch Big Brother at all?
I don't. I've heard good things about it though.
Yeah, I've never really gotten into that one either. But I remember when the pandemic was beginning to hit and the lockdowns were starting, because you know how it is, right? They're all locked away in as house guests and have no like access to the outside world and everything. So I forget which country it was, but there was one version that was taping somewhere in the world, and the contestants had like no idea what was happening until the season was coming to an end.
Wow.
So I just can't imagine how much of a shock that was. It's like the world's completely different now since we started this game.
My cousin, she's in high school and she did this like semester in the wilderness pretty much last spring. Which is where they were like literally in the woods, had no access to technology. I think they could send like an email a week or something like that. And they took classes, but they like would chop their own wood, like start their own fires, like lived in cabins, something I would never want to do. But they got sent home in late March probably, like everyone else did. And so we were on FaceTime with her, and she left at the beginning of January. So there was so much that happened, like the fires in Australia, Kobe died, Corona like started happening, and so we're on FaceTime with her. She's like, guys, like all of this just hit me at once. She's like, what is going on? And then this was late March, and she's like, did you guys know that Kobe died? And we're like, yeah, in January. She's like getting all of this at once.
Yeah, that was sad.
It was.
That was a sad day.
Yeah, it was. I remember our team, we had like a team dinner thingy, and it was just like so solemn. It was really sad.
Yeah. I just because I'm a communications major, I genuinely got kind of angry at how the news was coming out because I think the local LA sheriff even said this, imagine, we want to be careful with how we're reporting things, because imagine that you learn over the air that a loved one died and you learn it through freaking TMZ, how heartless is that?
Yeah, they just don't care.
Yeah, but then it was so TMZ breaks that, and because TMZ is TMZ, I was just praying that they were wrong on this one somehow, but they say Kobe Bryant and 3 others killed, and then the guy on ABC News comes in and says Kobe Bryant and his 4 daughters on the helicopter killed in the helicopter crash, and then some other outlet says Kobe Bryant survived by wife and 4 daughters, and everything starts coming in, and you find out, well, okay, none of those were true. Yeah. Because it was Kobe and his 1 daughter and 7 others. And so it just, as a communications guy, it frustrated me. Yeah. That, people rush to be first, and they do it at the expense of being right.
Yep. Absolutely. I think now there's a lot less fact-checking that needs to go on before things can get published. So there's just so much news out there that is completely wrong.
Yeah. All right. All right, about 15 minutes now. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Let's see.
Rachel told me you were super cool. So hi.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, I was really excited for this.
So yeah, any other stories you have to tell? Otherwise, we can wrap it up.
Stories? Oh gosh. I'm trying to think. Well, I'm wondering. So, like, what other podcasts do you listen to?
So my favorite podcast is actually the Dale Jr. Download.
Okay.
Actually, kind of inspired what I wanted to do with this show. Because it started out as like he was still racing. He just retired from NASCAR in 2017. So started as like a weekly update on like how his races were going. And I don't even really know much beyond that because I didn't get into it until after he retired. So just trying to catch up on older episodes. I haven't gotten very far yet, but what he started doing was bringing in a different guest from the racing world every week to talk about their careers and how they got started in the sport. And I thought, I'm an athlete on a sports team. I can maybe find something to do with that here because I was already doing a show through Scott Radio anyway.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how this got started.
That's such a good idea. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, but do you listen to podcasts at all?
Yeah, so this summer, I never did before. I thought they would always be really boring. And then this summer, I was painting my grandparents' beach house with just my sister, but we would usually work on, like, opposite sides of the house. So I was by myself, and I don't like being by myself, so I had to figure out something to do to pass the time. So I started listening to one about The Office called Office Ladies. They like break down every episode, and then I listen to a bunch of conspiracy theory podcasts, which I love conspiracy theories, so those are awesome to listen to. And then I listen to some sports ones, some sermons, and some like racial education ones, which were all super awesome. So it made the time go by a lot faster for sure.
Do you listen to Joe Rogan at all?
I have some, but not really recently. My dad is a really big sports fan, so like sports radio. So
yeah, I don't keep up with his podcast like every single day because he's kind of like the king of the podcast world right now. But just the wide variety of guests he brings in, like he's got politicians on the show and sports figures on the show, and his last two guests have been Kanye West and Alex Jones, which is like
that. Honestly, that's impressive that he can get people from anywhere in any realm.
Yeah, well, when you have a platform that big, I think a lot of people a lot of times want to come on the show.
Yeah, that's true.
And you have to start making decisions like who you can and can't bring on.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, Abby, thank you for coming on the show. It's been a lot of fun getting to know you a little bit better, and this is like it kind of amazed me how quickly this happened. It's like, I think 6 or 7 episodes in last year, like, people started wanting to come on this show.
Oh, that must be such a cool feeling.
Yeah, like, to have... Because, like, it wasn't like I had to beg people at first. But, I had to make sure I reached out and told people what we were doing here. Yeah. And then Jacob Almeida, who was a freshman on the team last year, he said, like, hey, Ben, I'd love to be on your show sometime. And I was like, well, that was easy. So, I appreciate your enthusiasm and wanting to come on and... I really enjoyed our conversation, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.